The title of this video, they called it a suicide mission, but the human went alone. When Earth's last defense falls to an overwhelming alien force, humanity faces annihilation. The only hope lies in a desperate plan to destroy the alien hive-mind at its source. A suicide mission no one is expected to survive. Commander Arlen Voss, a war-weary soldier with nothing left to lose, volunteers to go alone. Behind enemy lines, he uncovers a terrifying truth. The aliens don't just conquer, they consume identities. As time runs out, Voss must defy an entire collective consciousness and make the ultimate sacrifice. His journey becomes legend, not for victory, but for the simple fact he went alone. Debris drifted silently across the shattered horizon of Earth's orbit. Twisted hulks of what had once been ships, now gutted monuments to the war. Communication relays blinked their last red warnings into the vacuum. The great wall of defense that surrounded Earth was gone, burned out in a wave of violet plasma and kinetic warheads. The alien fleet hung beyond the moon like a row of daggers, motionless, watching, waiting for the final breath to escape humanity. Commander Arlen Voss stood inside the observation deck of the EFS Nightingale, helmet tucked under his arm, eyes locked on the ash-black sky. His reflection in the glass didn't flinch. Tall, lean, visibly weathered, Voss bore the marks of too many years in too many trenches. A long scar traced from his jaw to his temple like a misplaced fault line. No medals, no ceremony, just the silence of someone who had outlived every friend, every unit, and perhaps even hope itself. Behind him, the final mission briefing replayed. A dry voice crackled through the overhead speakers. All attempts to breach the Zyron control structure have failed. Data from recovered wreckage indicates a singular core, a signal matrix buried deep within their artificial homeworld. Destroying it would collapse their entire network. The line paused, then continued. However, the structure is protected by gravitational anomalies and hive drone patrols. Command has classified infiltration as non-viable. It is by all standards a suicide mission. Arlen didn't blink. He already knew the odds. He wasn't here to be reminded of them. General Kale's voice had followed in that same recording, harsher. No team has volunteered. We're standing down. Earth Defense Command will initiate fallback protocols and prepare for surrender negotiations. That was the part that made Voss move. He'd gone to command personally, silent in his demand, the way only those who had nothing left to lose could be. They tried to talk him out of it, tried to cite statistics, logic, survival instincts. Voss had merely looked him in the eye and said, "Don't need a team, just need a ship." Now, in the cold hush of space, the Nightingale vibrated under minimal power, cloaked to avoid detection. The wormhole was forming ahead, unstable, crackling with quantum static, the last viable path into the Zyron core. The AI pilot chimed softly, estimated jump stability, 32%. Recommend delay for recalibration. "No delay," Voss muttered, strapping on his gloves. "We do it now, or we don't do it at all." He moved through the corridor to the command chamber, where a final message glowed on the holodeble, his sister's face, recorded hours earlier. Maren Voss, civilian scientist, survivor. Her smile was worn, brave for his sake. "I know you're going to do it, Arlen. I know I can't stop you. If you see Mom and Dad wherever you're going, tell them I kept the garden going like I promised. You don't have to win. Just make it hurt." The message ended. He didn't replay it. The launch countdown began. No fanfare. No flags. Just numbers. 10, 9, 8. The lights dimmed. 7, 6, 5. The stars outside distorted, bending like reflections in broken glass. 4, 3. Arlen's grip on the control cradle tightened. His heart didn't race. He didn't believe in final moments. Not anymore. Final moments implied closure. This was just motion. 2, 1. The Nightingale hurled itself forward. The wormhole seized the ship in a storm of collapsing particles, gravity tearing sideways, sound erupting where there should be none. For a heartbeat, everything turned inside out. Then silence. The ship was gone. Earth Command's final log simply read, Nightingale has entered non-space. Commander Voss presumed loss. The war rooms fell quiet, not out of respect, out of resignation, but in the void between stars, somewhere beyond the reach of sensors and certainty, a single human vessel pierced into the dark heart of an alien empire. Inside it, a man with nothing left, no fear, no orders, no reason to return, was carrying the last, impossible hope of a world that had already begun to mourn him, and he wasn't planning on dying quietly. You said, darkness wrapped the vessel like a second hull. Arlen Voss had strapped the pilot's cradle, breath shallow, pulse steady. The Nightingale was silent, drifting, its systems rebooting after the violent traversal. No stars outside, just shifting shadows and nebulous structures that defied geometric logic. The alien system resembled a planetary graveyard. Moons cracked open like eggshells, black towers spiking from their surfaces, each humming with a vibration too deep to hear. He'd made it. No backup, no reinforcements, no guarantee the ship could even get him home. But he was alive. For now. Cloak integrity. 54%. The ship's AI rasped. It sounded damaged. One of its core modules had fried during the jump. Arlen would have to proceed without reliable support. The destination loomed ahead. A massive construct tethered to a decaying asteroid, shaped like a rotating helix, surrounded by swirling metallic debris. This was it. The Zyran Signal Core. Their command nexus. Intelligence had suggested it was the source of their hive link, the thing that bound their fleets into perfect coordination. Voss initiated manual approach. The ship glided through the debris field, silent as a shadow. His HUD highlighted a docking lattice along the structure's outer shell. He geared up. Exosuit, EMP grenades, compact plasma cutter, oxygen reserves, old-fashioned steel knife. No ceremony. No last words. Just a methodical ritual of someone preparing for a one-way job. The hatch opened with a reluctant hiss. He leapt into open space, maneuvering with short, practiced bursts. As he floated toward the alien surface, a low vibration passed through his bones, like standing too close to a buried engine. The structure pulsed faintly with energy, veins of light running beneath its semi-organic metal skin. He landed. Magnetic boots held. The hull under his feet was warm. It wasn't just a machine. It was alive. The first corridor swallowed him in darkness, then bathed him in a dull violet glow. The walls shifted subtly when he passed, like muscle tissue flexing in slow response. His motion scanner began to flicker, confused by the lack of consistent geometry. No right angles, no straight lines. The Zyran didn't build like humans did. They sculpted, they grew. Minutes passed in silence. Then movement. A spindly drone, crab-like, detached from the ceiling and scuttled toward him before it could alert others. He flung an EMP puck at its center. The pulse popped, and the drone collapsed, spasming briefly before going still. He didn't stop moving. Hesitation was death. Every step deeper into the structure chipped away at the idea that these things were simply machines. He passed clusters of dormant drones fused into walls, their limbs twitching involuntarily, like dreaming bodies. He passed pulsating data conduits that resembled nervous tissue more than circuitry. And then he found the first archive node. It floated in an open chamber, suspended like a jellyfish in air, tendrils of light trailing from its underside. Arlen drew closer, weapon ready, but the node didn't attack. Instead, it activated, projecting an image in midair, a face, his, but not as he was now, younger, unscarred, wearing the old uniform of the 19th Orbital Infantry, the one his entire unit had worn before they were wiped out in the Battle of Caries Theta. The projection spoke in his voice. You shouldn't be here. He stepped back, rifle up. What the hell is this? The projection flickered. We assimilate what we fight. Memory, emotion, pattern. Your unit gave us much to understand. Rage prickled through him. You killed them. They joined us. You misunderstand the nature of death. The voice replied calmly. All data becomes part of the core. In time, even you. He fired into projection. The node flared, staggered, then collapsing on itself. The room darkened again. He didn't need more proof. The Zyran weren't just conquering, they were absorbing minds, thoughts, entire histories. They weren't content to destroy humanity. They wanted to rewrite it. He moved faster now, bypassing secondary corridors, using his HUD to triangulate the core's energy signature. It wasn't far, and it was massive, drawing power from the moon's molten interior via siphons buried deep in the rock. As he neared a wide passageway shaped like an open throat, more drones stirred. This time, no stealth. They dropped from above, fluid and quick. Voss rolled beneath the first, slashed its legs off with the plasma cutter, and fired 2 clean shots into the next. The corridor erupted in flickers of light, screeches of synthetic pain, oil-like fluid splattering the walls. He kept moving, panting, bleeding from a graze on his forearm. The suit auto-sealed it. His focus was absolute. At last, the corridor opened into a towering chamber, the ceiling stretching beyond the limits of his light. The heart of the alien system pulsed at its center, an enormous crystalline sphere, suspended in anti-gravity, wrapped in coiling metallic tendrils. Faces glimmered within the core's surface. Human faces. His squad. Nadia, Cho, Reyes, others he hadn't seen in years. They weren't just recorded. They were preserved, ghost-like fragments, blinking, weeping, moving their mouths without sound. His knees buckled. For just a moment, then he straightened, clenched his fists. You don't get to wear their faces. He reached for the charge in his satchel, a volatile fusion of matter-antimatter spike and collapsible singularity bait. Primitive by Zyran standards, but effective enough if placed dead center. The moment he touched the platform, the voices in the chamber returned. Not echoes, not recordings, but responses. Pleas, warnings. The core was trying to communicate. You are not your pain, it said, through the voices of his fallen friends. You can be whole again. Just step forward. Join them. End the war with understanding. Arlen stared at the core, his finger hovering over the activation switch. For a moment, he imagined surrendering. Just a moment. Then he pressed the switch. The countdown began. He turned and ran. Behind him, the whispers turned to screams. You said, the floor convulsed beneath his boots, a deep tremor rolling through the alien structure, like the first cough of a dying giant. Arlen sprinted through the twisting corridor, every step a gamble on collapsing geometry. The charge he'd placed was counting down, a fusion spike with singularity anchor, crude but potent enough to unravel the Zyran core. It would detonate in under 5 minutes, and he was still buried inside the beating heart of the enemy. Behind him, the core screamed, not with sound, but with pulses that rattled his thoughts and spiked his nerves. It was angry now, desperate. The walls twisted tighter, corridors narrowing. He clipped his shoulder hard against a shifting turn, spun, regained balance, kept running. A hiss. Above him, vents opened like gaping wounds, and Zyran drones dropped through in a fluid cascade of claws and sinew-metal limbs. The first one landed directly in front of him, too fast to shoot. Arlen dropped low, sliding on one knee, and slashed its leg joint with the heated edge of his plasma blade. Sparks sprayed, fluid hissed, and the thing screeched as it toppled. He pivoted up and fired twice into another drone mid-leap. The shots hit center mass. It exploded into violet smoke and fragments. Then came the others. No more stealth. No more evasion. He turned and ran toward the nearest vertical shaft, slamming a grappling spike into wall and launching upward. Magnetic tethers yanked him into an upward climb, his boots scraping sparks as the drones followed like insects swarming to heat. Halfway up, his suit began to overheat. Oxygen alarms chirped in his ear. He forced himself to keep climbing. A voice followed him, not over comms, not in his ears, in his mind. You are unique but not alone. You are the divergence. You are the chaos. It wasn't attack. It was observation, fascination. The hive wasn't just reacting. It was studying him. You defy order not out of hate, but out of grief. We can unmake your grief. He reached the upper lip of the shaft and rolled out, panting, suit scorching cracked. The AI link still pressed against his mind like a tide. Images flashed, his parents' final transmission, the last moment of his squad. His sister's tears on a screen he hadn't watched again. You suffer because you remember, the voice whispered. We offer forgetting. Peace. Synthesis. Arlen spat onto the ground and ripped the voice-dampening node from his neck brace. Static flooded his earpiece, blessed silence. The hallway widened ahead. At the far end, an exit or maybe a trap. He didn't slow. Drones crawled out of walls. Larger ones now. Quadrupeds with mantis claws and shifting faces made from stolen memories. One bore Nadia's eyes. Another mimicked Cho's walk. It was obscene. It was personal. He screamed, not in fear but in fury, and charged. The first drone lunged. He ducked low, slamming the plasma cutter into its undercarriage, dragging it upward until the blade burst from its spine. The second slashed his arm, slicing through armor. He didn't feel it, only noted the warmth running down his side. He countered with a frag shot, point blank. Its head disintegrated. One after another, they came. One after another, he cut them down. His HUD flashed red. 30 seconds. He cleared the threshold into a chamber lined with translucent membranes. Storage cells, maybe, or incubators. They rippled with life inside. Half-formed Zyron. Human tissue interwoven. He saw something that looked like a child and hated the thing it reminded him of. The exit was ahead. A transport artery running through the spine of the structure. A long rail tunnel carved into glowing bone and alloy. He vaulted into it and slammed his last charge into the track. The rail snapped to life, hurling him forward as the countdown hit 5, 4, 3, 2. He closed his eyes. 1. The blast did not make sound. It made absence, an erasure that radiated from the core like a collapsing lung. It swallowed the structure in silence, inverting gravity, shredding energy matrices, shattering the collective consciousness that governed the hive. The transport tunnel twisted like paper in a fire, and Arlen was flung from it, tumbling through smoke and fragments, his body struck by debris, breath lost, then found again in a gasping choke. He lay there, floating in the fractured remains of the alien structure, suit cracked, chest plate half melted, HUD blinking between static and darkness. He tried to move. Couldn't. The voice didn't return. Nothing did. Then, faintly, from a corner of his visor, signal, weak, directional. He laughed, a raw, broken laugh. Still here, he whispered, voice shaking. Still not done. You said, light years away, Earth's skies clear for the first time in weeks. The alien siege had lifted, just stopped. Motherships that had once hung like executioners' blades over the planet flickered, convulsed, and fell from the sky in controlled descents. No explosions, no resistance, just silence, like a breath held too long finally exhaled. In orbit, the last of the human fleet received an impossible transmission, static then a time-stamped echo, core destabilized. Mission complete. Commander Arlen Voss, status unknown. Across command centers and underground bunkers, there were no cheers, only stunned faces, blinking tears, and long, echoing silence. Some didn't believe it. Others did, and simply bowed their heads, because they knew exactly what it had cost. Marin Voss sat alone in a refugee shelter beneath the remains of the Eastern Spire, hands clenched around a data pad. She replayed his final transmission 17 times. His voice was ragged, drained, but unshaken. He hadn't said goodbye. He hadn't apologized. He just said, this wasn't about winning. It was about making sure they remembered what it cost to break us. She didn't cry anymore. She couldn't. All she could do was look up at the thin sunlight cracking through a fractured ceiling and whisper, you did it, Arlen. You stubborn bastard, you did it. 2 days later, a signal array deep in the Ural Mountain range received a weak pulse from outside map space, a telemetry code only one man ever used. Contaminated, corrupted, but real, still alive. But Earth couldn't reach him. Not yet. Recovery teams were dispatched. Probes launched. Scientists argued. Politicians seized headlines. Memorials were built anyway, even as hope stirred. In the Capitol, a statue rose, Arlen Voss in full armor, rifle slung low, head tilted toward the horizon. The plaque beneath bore only the words, "He went alone." Children visited the statue every day. Some laughed, some stared. Some asked if the man in stone was real. Their teachers would nod. And sometimes one of those children would press a small hand against cold metal and ask, "Why did he go alone?" And an adult would say, "Because someone had to." Beyond the edge of explored space, a man drifted in a shattered pod, blood crusted over his brow, lungs burning with every shallow breath. He didn't know if the signal went through. He didn't know if anyone was coming, but his eyes were still open, and in the darkness, he whispered to no one, "Still here." You said,